Starting off right where Alien vs. Predator left off, a chest burster has burst out of a Predator, causing the ship to crash onto Earth and wreaking havoc upon a small town America. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Alien franchise review series. We're moving along with Alien vs. Predator Requiem, released in 2007 and directed by Greg and Colin Strauss. Let's jump straight into what I liked about this movie. This movie has a great small town feel to it, and if you know me, if your horror movie has a good small town feel and vibe to it, you have pretty much won me over. And I think that this movie does a pretty good job at that small town feel. It takes a drastic turn from the previous Alien vs. Predator movie, which took place on like a ship / Antarctic vibe setting to it, which I did like, but small town will always beat out any type of other setting that a horror movie can have for me personally. Alien vs. Predator Requiem has that vibe to it. And just like its predecessors, this movie does not disappoint with the effects of the alien and the predator. It still looks amazing. I do think that they used a little bit too much CGI, which will be in what I didn't like, but for what they did use, I thought the aliens and the predators and the face huggers and everything involved with it, the effects looked amazing. The predator turning invisible looked awesome in every scene that they did it. And there's a part of this movie that takes place in the town sewer, which I think is a really cool setting for this. It's a very dark movie, which I went in knowing. I knew that everybody talks about how dark this movie is, and they're not lying. It is a very dark movie. But I thought that setting down in the sewer was a pretty cool setting. I thought it looked amazing. And this movie is following kind of like three different storylines. You have the father and son at the beginning of the movie that both get face huggers on them, spoiler alert. And you have the family, or the wife of them, looking for them. And then you're also following this family that is a wife that just came back home from the Marine Corps, a father and their daughter. You're following them along, and then you're also following these brothers that one of them is going after this girl that has an ex-boyfriend that is always coming after him, and the other brother is going through just regular struggles, trying to find a job, stuff like that. So you're following these three type of stories during this whole movie, and they all come together at the end. And I think that was a pretty cool aspect that they used. I do have a side of that is in my negatives when I get to them, but I thought overall it worked pretty well, and it was captivating and kept me interested. And out of that, one of my main positives is the family aspect of the mom and dad and little girl. I thought that was probably my favorite out of the three, because eventually the dad does get caught by a predator and dies, and it's the mother and daughter trying to get away, and it really reminded me of Aliens with Riley and the little girl. They definitely had that aspect to them, and I think that that's kind of what the director was going for. I think it was kind of a callback to Aliens, and it worked. I thought it was amazing. And another thing this movie gets right is that the characters are simple. They don't try to do anything super extravagant with the characters. They're just simple characters with simple backstories that are told at the beginning, and they move on. So I like that about a movie. I like simplicity in movies. That's why John Carpenter is my favorite director of all time, and I think they really pull it off very well. It's a simple small town, simple characters, simple families, simple relationships, and I think that works for the benefit of this film. And overall, I just like the whole setup of this movie, that a chest burster came out of a predator, causing their ship to crash land into this forest, which is right next to this small town. And while fighting against each other, they're simultaneously like wreaking havoc upon this town. It has like kind of that Killer Clowns from Outer Space vibe to it, where they just crash land and start wreaking havoc upon the town. And I really liked that aspect of it. I thought it was very cool. It really worked for me as a small town horror fanatic. It's just something that I really liked about it. And coming to the end of the film, I thought that this had a very satisfying third act. It had great fight scenes throughout the entire movie between alien and predators. It had great kills. I wish there was a little bit more gore in the movie and the kills, but there were still some gory kills. Definitely more of an action type when it come to the kills. It was going for more action than gore and horror, but still pretty good kills, very good action, very good fight scenes between humans and the monsters, and also between the two monsters. Very great fight scenes. Does not disappoint in that department at all. I think that this is actually an improvement on the action from the first Alien vs. Predator, which is probably an unpopular opinion, but I don't know. So moving on to the few dislikes that I have for this movie. Like I said, this movie is very dark. That's the one thing I knew coming into this movie, and I always heard people talk about how dark the movie is. And yeah, it is a very dark movie. And I'm not just talking about the scenes that are supposed to be dark. I'm talking about even the scenes where it's just open daylight, noontime, and completely outside. Even those shots look darker than what they should be and what they usually are in movies. And I just thought that was a really weird tone that they went with. It's not as distracting to me as it is for most people that I hear talk about it. Most people I hear talk about it, that's like a super big negative that they have, and it makes them not enjoy the movie as much. It didn't bother me that much, but it was definitely noticeable for me, and noticeable enough to put in my negatives. And I did think that this movie used a little bit too much CGI, coming off of previous Alien and Predator movies where it was dependent on practical effects for the most part. I feel like the majority of this movie and the effects are CGI. Even though they're really good CGI effects, as a horror fan, I really just want to see the practical effects. I want to see the mishaps. I want to see the B-movie-ish of practical effects, although the CGI effects look really good. So that was just a little nitpick that I had with the movie. And like I said about the three kind of stories you're following in this movie, I think at some point it does get a little bit too much. There's almost too much characters. It's just enough to where it doesn't really bother me that much, but it was enough for me to write it down that it's just writing that line on too much characters and a little bit too much stories to follow, and it kind of gets to the point where you're noticing it and it bothers you a little bit, but not enough to where it really downgraded the experience for me. I just had to put it on there. So other than that, I thought that this was a very, very good horror thriller action movie, and I don't get the negative comments that this movie gets. This is a lot of people's least favorite, and I don't understand that. I thought that this was genuinely a good horror thriller movie, and I'm glad that I bought the Blu-ray for this one because it's not on any streaming platform, so I had to buy the Blu-ray, and I'm glad that I own it because it's genuinely one of the favorite ones that I've watched in this series so far. So I'm giving Alien vs. Predator Requiem a 4 out of 5 stars, so actually much higher than you'll probably see most reviewers get it. I don't get the negatives that people put on this movie all the time. It was a very enjoyable action horror thriller monster fight movie in my book. I had a lot of fun with it. It was a blast. So let me know what you guys think of AVP Requiem. Am I way off on this? Let me know down in the comments. We'll have a discussion about it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this one. I will see you in the next one.